Look, man, a lot of people have been talking choppy, and this is just pretty much what we're getting into. People don't like the fact that the Lions are good, and it's not just that they don't like the fact that the Lions are good. They're melting down. They have no idea what to do. It is as if it was a catastrophic world event that took place. They don't know how to handle it. They just don't know how to handle it, and it's wild to me. It's wild to me. All the pundits and everyone is tripping over each other and all these things. Just to go and say something against a team. We haven't done anything to anybody. We've been a bad franchise for over 50 years. Okay? All we're doing is winning. And that's what every franchise wants to do. Yes, we have started winning, I guess, quicker than people thought. And last year we were a cute story and everybody was pinching cheeks and everybody was like, oh, look at those lovable losers. So then once we are no longer the lovable losers, well, we can't be lovable winners because nobody loves a winner except for that fan base. Look at no further than Nick Wright's favorite team in the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs weren't great and no one was really paying attention to them. But then once they started winning, once they formed a quote unquote dynasty, people hate Patrick Mahomes. People hate Andy Reid. People hate Travis Kelce. The Taylor Swift thing doesn't help. What is up, though, Lions fans? I interrupted today's video just to tell you a little bit about our sponsors. And our sponsors are none other than you, the people. If you want to become a supporter, a fan of the channel, just go ahead and scan that QR code right there on the screen. You don't have to do it. But what I would like you to do, smash that like button, subscribe, and make sure you turn on your notifications so you can get notified when the Motor City Cats are back at it. And now, let's get back to the show. They hate the attention that they get. They hate the fact that they just keep winning and they're always winning. They hated the fact. Now, I didn't hate the fact. I acknowledged the fact that they were winning. It looked like in spite of their efforts to lose. But in reality, this is a 16-win team that we're talking about. Yes, obviously they were 15-2 because they laid down against the Broncos. And they got some hate for doing that. They got some hate for doing that, for laying down against the Broncos and the Broncos putting up or they're not putting up any fight against the Broncos. It was 38-0. And people are, oh, you're ducking the Bengals. You don't want to see Joey B, Burrowhead. Listen, the road to the Super Bowl is not easy. Playing in a Super Bowl is not easy. Getting to a Super Bowl is not easy. Winning back-to-back Super Bowls is not easy. And winning 3 Super Bowls in a row has never been done. So if I can eliminate Joe Burrow, the only person that's actually come into my house and put me out of the playoffs, and I don't have to worry about seeing him, I still have to worry about Lamar. I still have to worry about Josh. Why do I want to worry about Joey B? Potentially. Tell yes. Feel free, Bo Nix. Go ahead and get into the playoffs. I don't see what the problem was. I really don't. I really don't see what the problem was. But, you know, I get people are mad. People, you know, just want to see the Chiefs lose. And I understand it. All right. So let me get to this article that explains what Nick Wright had to say. This is posted by Athlon Sports. Was written by Nick Meyer. So it says the Detroit Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-9 on Sunday Night Football in a game that erased many questions surrounding Detroit's defense. The Lions held Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold to less than 50% completions on the night while pressuring him into key incompletions en route to the blowout victory in downtown Detroit. On Wednesday, longtime sports pundit Nick Wright, or Nick Wrong as I like to call him, shared his thoughts on the Lions defense. Wright said that he believes there is a glaring weak spot in the Lions approach that could burn them later in the playoffs against top-tier NFL quarterbacks, which could preclude them from winning the Super Bowl. I don't look at the Lions as the biggest threat to the Chiefs, Wright said, adding that he expected Detroit to lose to the Vikings. That's just disingenuous. You've seen us come back from 10 down to beat the Vikings, even when we, had the late fumble down the stretch, and it looked like that was probably going to do us in, and we still won that football game. And then you saw us come and apply BTA at our own house. So then if Minnesota gets through Los Angeles, which they caught the Honolulu Blue flu last time they played the Detroit Lions, and they went to LA and lost. Now they've played the Detroit Lions, got the BTA treatment, and they have to go to LA again, where they ultimately could lose. However, if they are able to beat LA, they have to come right back to Detroit. Do you think that Aaron Glenn, and I'll touch on this once I finish up with the article, but do you think that Aaron Glenn is simply going to deploy the exact same strategy? I mean, variations of it probably, but Aaron Glenn knows that they're going to be ready to see what they saw again. So, again, let's continue with this. He says, and listen, Terrion Arnold got hurt. That's another defensive injury. And I know folks saw how they played against Sam Darnold and said, well, what more do you want from them? I do not think that specific defensive approach will work against great quarterbacks, which is we're just sending the house. Man, we're just sending the house again and again and again. I'd like to see what Nick Wright had to say about Brian Flores' approach all year, because that literally was Brian Flores' approach to send the house and play zero coverage. Sometimes Brian Flores, he'll disguise it and he'll send people, drop people out of the blitz when it looks like he's bringing the pressure, and it'll come from other places, and the blitzes are exotic. But Brian Flores' scheme is blitz heavy, pressure heavy, a lot of man coverage, 2-man coverage, cover 2, zero coverage, a lot of that mixed up together. Isn't that exactly what we did? Isn't that exactly what we did to the Minnesota Vikings? Did we not beat them at their own game? But hey, it's because it's the Lions. Moving along, he added that he doesn't think the Lions defense, especially with their rash of recent injuries, will hold up against top shelf quarterbacks using their approach of constantly blitzing like they did on Sunday night. Historically speaking, great quarterbacks love being blitzed, Wright said. Now Detroit's in a unique spot where they could make the Super Bowl and never have to play a great quarterback, because the NFC only has one, in my opinion, and that's Matt Stafford. But in the Super Bowl, I don't think that will work against Patrick Mahomes. I also don't think that would work against Josh Allen. So many contradictory things here. Great quarterbacks love being blitzed. Matthew Stafford, if you want to call him a great quarterback, you can. I would say that you're wrong. Matthew Stafford doesn't love being blitzed. Matthew Stafford was getting the ball out of his hands in 1.3 seconds when he played against the Detroit Lions. And we weren't even blitzing. Right? He didn't want no parts of pressure. Jared Goff is the best quarterback that the Detroit Lions have ever had against the blitz. Guess who the Detroit Lions used to employ at quarterback? Matthew freaking Stafford. Jared Goff loves to be blitzed. Jared Goff loves so much to be blitzed by Brian Flores especially, that Brian Flores came out and said, I'm not blitzing this dude. Now, he eventually started mixing in pressures and things of this nature, but the first couple of drives, they were playing coverage. They were trying to be stout against the run, but you did not see the pressure. Right? As the game wore on, I guess Brian Flores was trying to be sneaky about it, mixing in pressure here and there, hoping that we forgot about his pressure defense and he was going to catch us off guard with the pressure. Well, if that's what you have and that's your fastball and that's your go-to pitch, when someone has adapted to your go-to pitch, you got to find other ways to get to it. You can't just keep spamming the fastball the entire game. Which is why, again, I say this about these national media people. They do not watch the games. They do not watch the teams that they cover. I was listening to Big D Energy earlier, and Neil Rule said something, and it resonated with me. He said he knows what they like to do in the national media or in sports media as a whole. They like to do what's easy. Right? They like to do what's easy. Nick Wright will do whatever he can to stay married to his takes. And it's pretty disingenuous for you, Nick Wright, to sit up there and flip-flop and waffle the way that you do. When you say something about the Lions and you're blatantly wrong, you come back saying that you think that they will win the Super Bowl. And then you watch them dismantle the Minnesota Vikings and you come back and say, well, they're not even a threat to the Chiefs because you can't do that against the Chiefs. What is it, Nick? Right? It's like you want to believe in this team. I feel like you do. Obviously, you're just doing things for attention because that's your job. But it's petty. You and Chris Broussard, like Kevin Wildes is the only one on that show, and I don't watch the show, right? But I see clips here and there. Kevin Wildes is the only one on that show that I've seen consistently give any amount of respect to the Detroit Lions. So what Neil Rule was saying was that they like to do what's easy. It's easy to say, oh, the Lions suck as a franchise. Because it's more difficult for you to examine the tenure of Dan Campbell. It's more difficult for you to do that. For you to understand how he started off 3-13-1 and how Sheila Ford Hamp, when he started off 1-6, came down and got booed. And Calvin Johnson was like, yo, chill. And she was like, nah, let him do it. Let him go. And she said, we're going to stick behind our guys. And then from that point on, we are what? Goddamn 40-6 at this point or something like that? From when she came down and said that. This is a team that started off 3-13-1, started off 1-6, finished the season 9-8, went 12-5 or 13-4. Whatever you want to officially say it was last year. Okay. So let's see. So they lost two more games the remainder of the season. They went 8-2 down that stretch. They lost officially 5 games last season, right? So that's 7 that they've lost since Sheila Ford Hamp came down, and they lost 2 this season. That's 9. So since a 1-6 start in the second year of the tenure of Dan Campbell, we've lost 9 games. 9. So it's more difficult for you in the national media to understand the arc of this football team, to understand the arc of this franchise. It's more difficult, not just for the national media, but your opponents at large, your divisional opponents, the guy that used to play for you who's running around sowing seeds of discord around the NFL about a player who has the most interceptions since he entered the league, who is the league leader in interceptions this season with 9. Who goes, well, that was a clean hit, but you dirty AF. It's you wanna call him a good player. You want to say I've never seen a person congratulate a person only so that they could call him dirty. Like he runs down there and calls him, he says it was clean, but you're dirty. What is that? We've got Vikings fans making up stuff about how they were treated in Detroit. We got Packers fans making up stuff about how they were treated in Detroit. It's funny to me that no one ever had any of these opinions about the Detroit Lions when we were losing. The men in the stands were not born in a barn. I would submit that while you were losing, a male fan would probably be more inclined to do the things that you accuse him to do while losing, because you ain't watching nothing on the field. You're not watching anything on the field. The product on the field is trash. You are walking around with a paper bag on your head. And if you've got a paper bag on, you can't be identified. Right? So wouldn't you think that someone would be more classless and out of the frustration of losing and the fact that they're hidden by a paper bag? They can't, their face can't be identified. Don't you think it would make more sense at that point? Now we're winning. We're 15-2. We're the number 1 seed in the first time in franchise history. And now we want to assault female fans in the stands. I mean, it is what it is. If that's what you think. If that's what helps you sleep at night. I don't know. But it is the easy thing. It is the easy thing for people to just go out of their way to say, hey, same old Lions, same old Lions, same old Lions. We even have fans that do that. But I mean, at 15-2 as the number 1 seed, regardless of what happens, do I think they'll win the Super Bowl? Yes. Because the divisional must go through Detroit. And the NFC Championship must go through Detroit. All right? And once you're in the dance, we know what Dan Campbell's going to do. We know what Ben Johnson's going to do. We know what AG's going to do. We know what these players are going to do. That's not a team I don't think anybody wants to play. Even somebody like the Bills. So it's so much easier for you just not to respect your opponent. I mean, I respect my opponent till I'm blue in the face. Y'all know me. Every time we talk about our divisional opponents, even if it's the freaking Chicago Bears who won 5 games, for goodness sakes. Even if it's the freaking what's the Packers. Sorry, I forgot their name for a minute. They're so insignificant. Even if it's the Packers, who went 1-5 in the division, just like the Chicago Bears, after claiming that they run the North and it's always theirs. I give them the respect. I hardly ever predict BTA unless you're somebody like the Titans. And even then, when you play the Titans and you play the Jaguars, I'm like, it is a trap game. So you got to be careful. But what we found out is that this team does not succumb to the trap of the game, because Dan Campbell has them firing on all cylinders at all times. So you can put a 4-win team, a 3-win team, whatever, at the time, a 1-win team in front of us, and they're going to get 52 hung on them, while they only score 6 to 14 points. Because we don't play down to competition, we go out there and do what the hell we supposed to do. Okay? And before, because I don't want to make this a whole entire topic on its own. I don't think it needs a whole entire topic. And then I'm going to get to your comments. But I want... Kelly Stafford was on her podcast. Kelly Stafford was on her podcast. I didn't watch it. I just saw the graphic. So she was on her podcast, and they asked her if she would come to Ford Field, if she would be present at Ford Field, if the Rams were to beat the Vikings and had to travel to Detroit next week. And she said, I mean, I don't want to, but probably. You keep talking about the Detroit Lions. You keep talking about the city of Detroit, and you're mad talking about we booed your kids and everything. I have a solution, Kelly Stafford.
Or, here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut the fuck up.
I mean, that's... If you came for all the stats and none of the static, if you're trying to keep your Lions news pragmatic, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you can get notified when the Motor City Cats are back at it. And plus, you know you can't get enough of the victory buffs.